Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Central Park Weekly Walk series. My name is Desiree, and I'll be hosting the weekly walk for today. I apologize for the late start, but we're here and we're going to have an awesome walk today. Today, our walk will be focusing on adventure playgrounds, and we're going to get into what exactly that is and what that means. We're going to be looking at a couple of adventure playgrounds that I found interesting, go into a little bit of the history of it. Make sure that you are using the chat feature to let us know how you're doing and where you are in the world. But yes, we are going to start our weekly walk adventure playgrounds today on November 16th, 2022. This is a little continuation of my playground series. Shout out to you guys if you saw the playgrounds of the North End weekly walk. And if you would like to see that, you could always go to our YouTube channel to see any of our previous weekly walks. And with that, we are going to get started. As always, we have our CC Live transcript feature on the bottom, our chat feature to let us know how you're doing and where you are, and our Q&A feature to put any and all of your questions. Please use the Q&A feature because we have my colleague Jose on the back end able to answer any and all questions for you live. And of course, we know Central Park Conservancy's mission statement is to preserve and celebrate Central Park as a sanctuary from the pace and pressures of city life. And of course, enhancing the enjoyment and well-being for all. And that includes everyone, even our children or underage people that of course visit the park and use it for many different types of recreation. Today, our weekly walk is going to be split up into two little legs, two sections of the park. And our first leg of the park we're going to be looking at is the North End, starting at Tar Family Playground. And we're going to check out the Wild West Playground in the North End. And our second leg of the walk, when we get there, I will definitely talk about it. Just to give a little visual on what the typical New York City playground looks like, we have an image here from actually our sister park, Prospect Park of Harmony Playground. So definitely keep this image in your head as we go on our weekly walk today, because this is what your typical New York City playground is going to look like. This all metal structure all together, just essentially putting all the play structures all together in one, and it being primarily metal. We are going to see very many of the design differences in our Central Park adventure playgrounds in just a couple moments. And of course, today we are starting at 100th Street at Boys Gate. And we are going to continue down our path, and already we are at our first playground, which is going to be the Tar Family Playground. Please remember that adults are not allowed in playgrounds unless you have a child with you, and this is a New York State rule, not just a Central Park rule. So since we're at our first playground, essentially what an adventure playground is, it's a special reimagined play space that is for children to promote curiosity and exploration of the world around them, and of course, creative play. Here we can see the rules of the playground probably displayed here on the gates, and also that our playground is actually separated into two parts, one section for younger children, 2 to 5, and another section for older children. And this is a feature that is typical in most of our adventure playgrounds, and we will see throughout our walk today. And we are getting a very awesome, good first look at our first playground, the Tar Family Playground. And we're already seeing many design differences from that first playground we saw in our sister park, Prospect Park, from earlier. We could see definitely all the different types of play structures that they have. They have slides and swings, and also the fact that it's primarily made out of wood and stone, which is very different from the first typical New York City playground that we actually saw. And we could see also a water feature here that is in all of our Central Park playgrounds as well. We're getting a little better, closer look at some of these play structures, this boardwalk and the slides. We just have to think about the fact that Central Park Conservancy restores and makes sure that all these playgrounds are clean and green for all of us to use, because actually playground restoration usually involves completely tearing down the old playground and rebuilding it, but instead, Central Park Conservancy decides to restore the playgrounds and add new features instead. And we're getting a good look at some of the features, the play structures for our younger kids. And we are getting a point of view perspective now from the top of that slide. And we just have to remember how essential playgrounds are for a child's overall development. It helps them explore and interact with the world as well as socialize with other children in a safe space. And that's just something very integral to child development. And as we are exiting our first playground of the day, I just wanted to take a quick stop by the pool, which is right next to the Tar Family Playground at 100th Street. And we're getting a little last peek of some fall foliage colors, as our fall foliage season is ending soon, but you could definitely stop by the park and still catch some of those colors there. And with that, we are gonna actually exit and we're gonna walk along Central Park West. It is very nice and picturesque looking, as we can see all these beautiful pin oak trees that line Central Park West, and these beautiful pin oak leaves that line the ground in this picturesque manner. And we are going to re-enter the park at 96th Street as we head to our next area, and that's going to be the Wild West Playground. And as I was on my walk, of course, we see the Central Park Conservancy, making sure that our benches are looking fresh and new for everyone to enjoy. And we're just going to be continuing along our path. And we could actually see our next destination, our next playground in the distance. And here we are at our next playground that's going to be the Wild West Playground. Now, something that makes this playground unique is that it is actually designed after a Western frontier town. It was originally designed in 1988 and has been restored since then, but we'll see some features that make it have that Wild West frontier town kind of vibe. So that is what's unique about this playground. And we're just getting a closer look at some of those rules. And also the fact that this playground similarly divides it into two separate areas, one side for older kids and one side for younger kids. And we're getting a first look at some of these play structures, looking very nice and picturesque. This is going to be the younger kids side, and also primarily all made of wood. And we're getting a little bit of a closer look at some of these play structures, and maybe we're seeing some of that Western frontier type of vibe coming through with this specific climbable structure over here. And even though it is seemingly very small, we have to remember the demographic that it's for, our younger kids. And simple structures like this can be challenging, but is definitely something integral to helping children build up their motor skills and things like that. And we're getting a look at the older kids side of the park, having some more intricate and more challenging play structures with these climbable structures over here. And we're seeing some materials being used like metal and wood as well. Something also unique about this playground is that although all of our playgrounds do have water features, we have this very fancy water feature that actually extends the entire length of the playground, going from the front all the way to the end and the back. And of course, we're getting a look at some kids taking advantage of the nice weather and enjoying some swings. And we're seeing some more of these different structures. We're seeing tire swings, another metal climbable structure, as well as some slides. And here is just a close-up look at the back end of the park where the water feature actually will end or extend to, before we saunter off to our next destination and our next playground. But I first had to take in the views that are directly outside of the Wild West Playground. We're seeing some of that nice, brilliant sun shining through, and of course, some of those beautiful fall foliage colors and just beautiful leaves that line the floor, making Central Park look especially picturesque at this time of year. We're just gonna continue along our path. And we are on the next leg of our walk. It's more towards the south end of the park. We're going to be starting at 69th Street, stop by Billy Johnson Playground, and then we're going to be heading off to Texture Playground. And I decided to take the path less traveled, a little bit of an elevated path, straight away from the primary pedestrian path. And we have a path that's a little slightly more elevated with some gravel over here, a very more scenic path to take. And it was definitely for a reason, to see one of our very iconic sites. So this is going to be the Dean Summer House. Essentially, the Dean Summer House is this beautiful rustic wooden structure with some amazing views along Fifth Avenue. So we actually have two other very similarly designed structures, which is going to be Copcot near the south end, as well as one wooden structure that's in the Ramble. It's very picturesque looking with the sun gleaming down, of course, and we could see lots of people taking advantage of this nice weather, reading a book, and just relaxing underneath this beautiful structure, Dean Summer House. Definitely check out the Dean Summer House at your next visit of Central Park. And I just wanted to take a closer look at this nice, beautiful plaque. It just says a tree house for dreaming and has a little link to what I found out is called the National Foundation for the Advancement of Artists. And with that, we are close to our next destination. We could see it a little bit in the distance, even though we're elevated high up. And make sure you keep in mind Dean Summer House and some of those architectural cues, because it will actually come back. So here we are at the front of Billy Johnson Playground, a very unique playground with very unique features. And you could see that actually the front entrance of the playground has a very similar rustic wooden structure. And it takes a lot of design cues from the Dean Summer House. It was just renovated in 2018. And essentially, the Billy Johnson Playground, the thing that makes this unique is that it is inspired by many of our Central Park landscapes. So essentially, we had an architect, Paul M. Friedberg, who actually wanted to create a space that was connected to the design of the park and also was inspired by features of the landscape. But he had the task of doing that, as well as making the park playable and accessible, and making it enjoyable for kids at the same time. And as we enter the park, we're seeing this very nice wooden climbing structure. And we could actually see on the other side, as we enter the park, a very miniature replica of the Dean Summer House that we actually just visited. We could see a couple of some iconic Central Park landscapes in this playground in miniature version. And I think it's a very amazing and brilliant idea to use the design cues from around the park and actually include it inside the playground. This is definitely going to promote some curiosity and exploration within the youth. And I'm sure that kids with a keen eye will be able to notice the fact that this structure looks very similar, if not the same, to the Dean Summer House that is not too far away from Billy Johnson Playground. Something also very exciting, we have another very iconic Central Park landscape. So this, of course, is going to be a miniature version of the Gap-style bridge. The architect essentially wanted to make a play environment that is interesting and exciting. And safe to say, I would say that he actually succeeded in that, because we have this very beautiful, picturesque looking Gap-style bridge, one of our most photographed bridges in the park, having a very nice miniature version. And it's looking especially picturesque with all the autumn fall foliage we can see lining the ground. And we're going to get a little point of view shot of what the bridge actually looks like on there. And we can see it is actually quite small, and that only one person at a time essentially will be able to walk the bridge, because it is actually that tiny. And we're seeing the back of Billy Johnson Playground, although it's hard to see in the front. Make sure you travel behind Gap-style bridge. You are able to own the playground with a child, of course, to be able to see the brilliant features in the back of the playground, we have these very nice rock slides that look like they're actually embedded inside of our beautiful rocks right here. So that is another very brilliant landscape feature that is unique to this park. So definitely, if you have the time, check out the Lee Johnson Playground. Very brilliant in the design and how they decided to take many of our iconic Central Park landscapes and put it in a playground for children is something that I actually really enjoy. But as we leave our second to last destination, it is actually a perfect time for a poll. So essentially, the poll question for today is, when you were a child, what was your favorite playground activity? And we have our choices. We have slide, swing, jungle gym, merry-go-round, seesaw, teeter-totter, or a game of choice, such as tag or hide and seek. So as we wait for the results of our poll, let us saunter off to our next destination. All right, so we're just gonna quickly go over the transverse roads and pass by the dairy, of course. And we are actually very close to our last playground of the day. Let's see those poll results. So actually, we have the most popular feature being the swing, and I would actually have to agree, because if I was able to take this poll, the swing was also my favorite feature as a child. And then we have our second favorite feature, which is jungle gym. Surprisingly, I was not a jungle gym child, but good on you if you were doing that as a child and things like that. So yes, that was something very interesting and very fun. And we are just going to briefly pass by texture ball fields. And essentially, we did have a weekly walk at Hexer Ball Fields not too long ago. If you're interested in that, definitely check out our YouTube. But if you would like to visit Hexer Ball Fields in person, I would definitely implore you to check out our tour Iconic Views. And essentially, there is going to be a link in the chat for that, because Hexer Ball Fields is actually going to be a stop on our Iconic Views tour. So the next time you're visiting Central Park, definitely come out and check out our Iconic Views tour. Again, our link is going to be in the chat if you would like more information on that. We also have to make a quick stop past the carousel. And let's just get a little orientation of where we are. So we came from 69th Street and Billy Johnson's Playground, and we are going to end off our walk today at Hexer Playground. So although it is not looking like it, this is actually going to be the entrance for Hexer Playground, the original playground of Central Park, because essentially Central Park was not made with children in mind, and many of these playgrounds actually wouldn't be added until the 1930s and the 1960s. So essentially, Hexer Playground was the first playground that was actually added to Central Park. This is the OG, if you will, but as New York City was actually trying to create playgrounds and things like that, at first it was controversial because it wasn't intended to have these places for recreation for children in Central Park. But of course, now playgrounds have become an amazing staple and unique feature of Central Park, from the design, as we've seen in a lot of our playgrounds that we've seen today, as well as just the scenery around it. And of course, Central Park now has 21 playgrounds that you can explore. And since we are at our last playground, I definitely need to shout out the people who make playground restorations actually possible. And that is going to be Playgrounds Partners with the Women's Committee. So essentially, Playground Partners are the people who make sure that children 11 and under, and they make sure that there is the quality and cleanliness of Central Park's 21 playgrounds. So they're overseeing the playgrounds, making sure that they're clean and making sure that they're restored. And they actually have a mission to restore every single one of Central Park's 21 playgrounds. And if you would like to be a part or contribute to that mission, we are going to have a link in the chat to playground partners. If you are at all interested in supporting the mission of keeping our playgrounds clean and green for generations to come to be able to enjoy. So again, there's going to be a link in the chat if you would like to be involved with being able to restore and keep our playgrounds clean and looking very nice. And we're seeing this is also the biggest playground of the day. We actually have 3 different sections here of this huge playground. But of course, we have an area for our younger kids and an area for our slightly older kids as well. Something also unique about this area is, first, when we went to the entrance, there were actually bathrooms for adults. And if you go a little bit more inside through those pillars, they actually have bathrooms for children as well. So we could just see these Braille signs that are right in front of the bathrooms for children. And as we enter Heckscher playgrounds, we actually cannot see the whole thing, but as I said, it is our biggest playground. So we could see lots of space to run around in the back, and we could actually see people taking advantage of all that space to run. Let's get a little bit of a closer look at some of these features. So when I look to my right, I see the area that is designated for our younger children. So you can see these small climbable structures, all made in stone. And if we go deeper into Heckscher Playground, we're actually going to see these buoyant looking swings right here towards the back of the playground. There are many different areas. And if we venture a little bit more back, but to the center of Heckscher Playground, we have the star feature of this playground. We have this huge, beautiful boardwalk for you to walk and run and explore around. And we have this very awesome and iconic rock that is actually attached right to the boardwalk, encouraging youths to actually explore our beautiful Manhattan mica schist rock. And we have aptly have this rock's name. This rock is actually going to be named Umpire Rock. And as we get a little closer look up on the boardwalk, we can see again that it extends directly to the rock. This is another very ingenious part of these adventure playgrounds design. It truly is promoting some exploration for kids to be able to actually use this rock as their playground, something very fun. And of course, this rock is going to be named Umpire Rock because if we look at the other end, at the other side, we could actually get a great view of Heckscher ball fields themselves. And on closer inspection of our beautiful Manhattan mica schist rock, we could actually see that it is looking pretty smooth versus most of the rocks that we see in the park that are very rough and jagged. And I'm going to chalk up all these smooth edges to the heavy foot traffic that Umpire Rock experiences from both the youth and adults alike. And we could see that it's actually a very friendly spot to have a lunch, have a nice sit down, and just relax and enjoy some sun. And now we are actually getting a view of Heckscher Heckscher Playground. We're getting a view of Heckscher Playground from Umpire Rock, and we could see exactly how large this playground is. We could see that swings area that we visited earlier, and the entrance is going to be all the way over here through the trees. So surely this is a huge area to promote lots and lots of exploration and curiosity through the minds of many different children. And I hope that we got some context on adventure playgrounds, the unique features of adventure playgrounds in Central Park, as well as their importance. We're just going to repost the playground partners link in the chat. If you would like to support the mission of Central Park restoring all 21 of these beautiful stellar playgrounds, and definitely let us know in the chat if I were to continue this playground series, what you would like to see, perhaps, or what playgrounds you would like for me to visit. And I would just like to thank you all, of course, for continuing to support the Central Park Conservancy, and for visiting us for our weekly walks every week. I want to make sure that everyone stays safe and be well. Just enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.